Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Chef Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to a special Cutter Degrassi Unpopular Opinions. I did the whole thing with 200, and some have aged well, some have not aged well, and some are freaking repeats because I couldn't find topics. So this Cutter Degrassi Unpopular Opinion is based off of the fact that on Degrassi Reddit the past few weeks I have seen one underlining theme. And that's not Emma bashing or Claire bashing or Maya bashing or even bashing of some TV shows that Degrassi characters have been on. No, it's the bashing of one Snake Simpson and the fact that Zoe got away with, well, as they say, murder in the whole Maya situation from season 13. Now, let's make one thing perfectly clear. I don't completely hate on this thing about the whole thing that they were mad that Zoe got away with things and how Snake basically may have gotten Maya's rage and all that. It's understandable. I'm all for it. Like, I agree with you, but the way it is, and the reason why it's an unpopular opinion is because of the fact that we are looking at this from a 2026 lens and not from a 2012 thing, 2013. I'm just trying to remember what season 13 was like. I think it was 2013 because season 1 was in 2001 and season 2 in 2002, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so 2013. We're looking at this from a 2026 lens. Almost every freaking Degrassi storyline from the first like 10, 12 seasons has their hiccups because of the timing. And, in 2026, we nitpick on them. I like to nitpick on things too, so I'm not immune to this. Anyhow, let's talk about this whole thing. So let's give some context. The context is that in season 13, Zoe comes in as a new character just when Maya and the gang are headed to France for a foreign exchange thing, which was like the first, 12, 13 episodes of Degrassi was based up in France and all that. Ali fell in love with Leo in France. So he tried to cozy up to Maya and Tristan and their friendship, and Claire was supposed to go to France, but then she got the cancer storyline and that bald cap, all that. So Zoe comes in through with Maya, and then all of a sudden we see that Zoe and Maya kind of get under each other's skin and all that. Mostly to do with Tristan, and Tristan doesn't know who to pick as the best friends, Zoe or Maya, or whose side he's on in essence. So then Zoe says because of her TV background, she could get Maya a chance to do some kind of sexy music video. And so Maya agrees to it, thinking that Zoe was genuinely going to help her out with her music career. Unfortunately, Zoe kind of backstabbed her and released the video, which was not as sexually provocative as we think it is. And people probably have joked at it that Canadian sexual provocativeness is a lot different than American. Nope, it's not. It wasn't as half bad as it seemed to be. However, the effects were huge. Maya got people like what they call photoshopping her body onto certain things, her head onto naked images and all that. And Maya couldn't believe it. She was like, why would these guys do it to him? Me. And worst of all is that, some guys are attracted to her music video and then they decide to try to grope her, like, touch her in spots where you don't want to touch her. And, Maya's upset by this. And then Maya learns that Zoe may have double crossed her, so she's upset. I mean, Maya's mom is more angry with the fact that Zoe made the sex video, but with how she was being groped and all that, Maya's mom was willing to help her. And then Maya, angry about Zoe, decides to write a song in music class and has some lyrics that are not really the best lyrics in the world. However, the music teacher swipes Maya's guitar, sends Maya to the office, and Maya knew it instantaneously that she had to go to the office. So of course they get mad at Maya for writing those lyrics and all that. Maya tries to explain herself and everything, and then Zoe decides to give an apology in front of Maya and her mother, because Maya's mom got involved in it, and all of a sudden Zoe does this apology, and Zoe's mom, and I mean Maya's mom, basically shrugs and says, "Okay, well that's fine," and all that, and then Zoe gives this flash of this thing to Maya, kind of a gotcha thing. Maya unfortunately is suspended because of her death threat within the song and all that. And Tristan finally decides to be on Maya's side other than Zoe's side. And, it worked out. Tristan and Maya were okay as friends. Maya and her mom want to do something about it and try to ask Snake about the stuff with Zoe and all that. But Snake doesn't budge on his things. So then Maya comes back from her suspension, and Simpson immediately puts her in the rubber room. Well, he calls it the remedial room, but of course Degrassi did call it the rubber room. But anyway, Maya tries to get out of the rubber room by wanting to be Snake's personal secretary, if you will. But Snake says he's fine, he's got everyone going. And Maya basically said, "I was groped. Can you just give me some leniency?" And then Snake says, "This is leniency. You had a death threat in a song and all that. And it's only for a few times a day. Prove to me that you can work in a good environment and I'll release you." And then, of course, that was when Maya got back with Sig and with Grace and Tiny and a few other people. It was just, you know, awkward. And unfortunately, that led Maya down that steep path with Miles. I mean, not with Miles, sorry, with Sig. And I for one was upset that Snake did that, and I was mad that Snake. If it wasn't for Snake, I think Maya and Sig would never have been back together. But then people said no, they probably would have been back together anyway. It was just a toxic relationship. Snake kind of taking it to Zoe. I mean, taking it to Maya by being with Zoe in the first place. And, Maya was upset and all that. And then, of course, that led to, well, at the end of season 13 is when Maya really went through the ringer. Tristan was being groped by Mr. Yates and all that. And Tristan was upset that Maya said something, that Yates was under suspension, and that Tristan was upset. He yelled at Maya saying that, "Why can't you let me have everything? You have guys hanging out around you. Why can't you just have me this one?" So basically, everyone says, well, that's Tristan just wants what Maya has. But most of the guys who were fond of Maya were not in that way. They were basically trying to grope her. Tristan and Miles break off as friends. No, sorry, Tristan and Maya break up as friends. And then, of course, Maya tries to help Zoe in her rape trial against Luke Baker and Neil. And then finds out that Miles had a fling with Zoe and yells at Miles and breaks up with Miles, saying she can't take it anymore. Why are you with her? Zoe and Maya do make up at the end of season 13, both realizing that Miles was scum and they should have, understood each other. So the main question on everyone's lips is, what should Simpson have punished Zoe more? In a sense, yes, absolutely. There's nothing against it. I think that Simpson should have done anything to Zoe. Anything to Zoe. Like a suspension as well. Like you don't have to get the police involved in sense. You can just suspend her and nothing else happens. But of course, that didn't happen, and there are a few factors. I am not going to be defending Snake on this. Like I agree with the Degrassi Reddit community that my Zoe should have been given some type of punishment though too. But the fact is that, back in 2013, things were a whole lot different. It wasn't as social media awkward as it is nowadays. But yeah, like there were signs of Snake being a coward. I mean, I've gotten more fond of Snake as a principal and how maybe he was a better principal than I anticipated. I mean, the way I looked at things in the past like 5 years was that Snake was basically the main problem with Snake was that he was groveling and he was starting to get to be the new Raditch, as in, a beloved teacher, but a terrible principal who lost touch with his students. Snake at least had the foresight to do the rubber room, the remedial room, and try to help students out. What did Raditch ever do? Not much. Basically, after the whole thing with letting Rick back at Degrassi, I don't care. Yeah, the whole thing is he ignored Rick. Fair enough. But letting Rick back in the school in the first place was the thing that was wrong and all that. And everything snowballed. And that's why he got turfed. Of course, Darren Wood's situation was that he actually had to do chop cut rebuild and he couldn't do that and Degrassi at the same time, so he quit Degrassi. But the fact of the matter is that, Snake's hands were tied. I mean, what could the police do? I mean, yeah, so he was responsible for Maya being doxxed and all that. And I know you want to say swatted, but no, swatted was the whole thing with the police coming to her house at the start of next class. But the fact is that, you know, that's what happened. And Snake says that he can't control the internet, he can't do much. He could have at least tried to help Maya or talk to the police and all that. But we got to also realize that it wasn't all Snake's problems, too. I mean, Maya's mom bought Zoe's fake apology, yelled at Maya, and it seemed that, it made Maya's mom into a villain and all that, and Maya couldn't trust her mom. Although Maya's mom did say eventually she said she would help Maya out, but then Maya fell in love with Miles, and basically, she at least got the boy. She got a boy, and her mind stopped being that way. I mean, I think with the whole fact that Maya trying to find a boy, it was after Cam. Remember, season 12 was Cam's dilemma and all that, and Maya was blaming herself for Cam's demise, in a sense. She has a right to blame herself, but she was not the main reason. There were a lot of factors. Sig gets some hate to her. Should get some hate, not total hate. But I mean, Sig didn't know Cam was one small step away from doing what he did in the greenhouse. Nobody knew that. So the fact of the matter is that, Snake had to do what he had to do. I mean, the whole thing. But the one thing against Snake, and I know a lot of you agree, is how much he's a coward at times. In season 10, he was trying to do everything in his power to stay principal. As Audra Torres basically said after he ignored Drew and Adam's plates that we're going to find a new principal, and Snake says he'll fix the problems. And then Vegas night happens, and Snake learned that there were a lot of good Vegas nights for causes, but all of a sudden Degrassi's was just full of terrible things. Allie and Drew in the boiler room. Drew tries to speak up on Allie's behalf, but Audra doesn't want to hear it. You had Sav and Holly J, who were supposed to be the chaperones, basically having striptease in one of the rooms. And then you had the whole Fitz and Eli problems over Claire. And it was too much to handle. And Snake knew that if he didn't make any changes, he was out the door. So he invoked the dress code. He just took away all the clubs, took away a lot of things and all that. And Jenna referenced it when she was supposed to be part of that Teen Star thing, that they were not allowed to put the day of the life of her because of her draconian principle, all that. Snake finally, after I think it's season 12, yeah, season 12, he finally um, took care of the dress code and just lifted things because the school behaved themselves. I mean, I get it, but you got to realize that in season 13, it was possible that Snake knew about Zoe's thing, and Zoe's mom tried to do everything in her power to try to destroy Snake and all that. Snake, I think, wanted to suspend and expel Zoe for her problems at the school, especially throwing coffee at Perino. But Zoe's mom tries to make excuses for her, mostly because, Zoe's mom was living off of her daughter. Her daughter was getting roles and her mom was living off of her stuff. And then when Zoe's stuff dried up after her confessions of being a lesbian and all that. Zoe's mom decides to marry somebody else and then kicks Zoe out. I mean, Zoe wanting to give Rasha, tell the world she is gay with Rasha at her mom's wedding. I mean, I understand she was thinking that her mom wouldn't believe her, but Zoe went a little too far. The wedding was not the proper thing. Anything else, I think, probably would have happened. But nevertheless, I think that Snake was scared that Zoe's mom would have raised a stink, and because of Zoe's privileged background, Snake could have found himself on the wrong end of things, and Degrassi could have been on the wrong end of things. So he knew he had to treat Zoe right, or else face Raph and all that. And of course, I keep saying that Snake may have fallen pressure to Mayor Hollingsworth, because Miles was supposed to be expelled after the fire in Firestarter, but he was back at Degrassi. Hunter should have been expelled after the whole gaming club thing, and wanting to go after Maya and the feminists and all that. I mean, Snake had to have known that Hunter was taking a gun to the school and all that. I think it would have slipped out from somebody's mind. And of course, Frankie and the racist poster. I think Snake did not want to get under Hollingsworth's wrath and knew that he could get in trouble because it's not just a parent, it's the mayor of freaking Toronto. And Snake was just worried about his job. I mean, a lot of people were actually shocked Snake was back in next class as principal, but after all, Pill was only supposed to be a replacement, and she thought she could do these things and get her job back. But when she practically tells Drew that she has to punish Drew so that the new students learn it's my way or the highway, I think Audra had something to do with it. For her role as PTA, I think Audra used her power for good and got Pill in trouble. I think they weren't going to allow Pill to come back as principal, but that would have been the final straw. But in all seriousness, I think that Snake should have done a lot to, should have done something to Zoe. I agree 1000%. But the problem was that the era was not there, and the fact is he was worried about Zoe's mom and backlash. And last point, this is the point. Maya put a death threat in a song. If Maya did some kind of natural song, okay, that's fine. And then maybe Maya would have been punished less. But the problem was she put the death threat in the song and she admitted it, the lyrics and all that. And Snake had to get angry at her. It's the common theme. And this has to do with hockey in general and soccer. If someone pushes you and then you push back, the officials or the referees will always, almost 9 times out of 10, be fixated on the retaliation and give that guy punishment. You know how soccer players, one soccer player will go after another player and then the other player, and then that second player will retaliate? That's when the referees step in and give a yellow or red card. But in my mind, that the retaliation, Snake was fixated on the retaliation portion of the program. If Maya had not retaliated, Zoe was a dead duck, in my opinion. I think that Maya would have gotten her justice, and I think Snake would have had to do something or else face the wrath from a lot of people other than Zoe's parents. And it goes for the Northern Tech thing, Frankie's poster. It had a backtrack. Northern Tech did a fake fire drill and got the volleyball team for Degrassi to be out in the cold with not much on. And then Degrassi came with the poster. Everyone laughed at the poster, thought it was original. Nobody thought it was racist except for Northern Tech. And basically, Degrassi's volleyball program was thrown into disarray. Nobody wanted to play them. So they had to throw Frankie under the bus. Everyone wanted Snake to take action about Frankie's thing. And Snake refused to and got a lot of wrath. But the problem was it was never talked about. I don't know if the Degrassi cheerleaders. I don't think the Degrassi volleyball team actually said that, I think they were also upset with Snake, although it was never said that, Northern Tech did this to us. We were doing this in retaliation. I understand you were doing this in retaliation, but the problem is people are fixated on the retaliatory action than the original action. In essence, that means that Snake was more fixated on Maya's retaliation than what Zoe actually did, despite the fact that Zoe's thing outweighed what Maya did. Authoritative action, authorities do this all the time. They don't care about the original action, but if there's a retaliatory action, they go after that first. And that's why Maya got punished unfairly. I agree with these people, I do, but I'm just saying it's unpopular because Snake had little options. So his mom probably got under his skin, and Maya retaliating and a death threat, no less. If Maya's song was just normal, okay, maybe it'd be cool. But there was kind of a death threat tone, and Snake had to take action because, as principal, the death threats outweigh anything, even if it was sexual in nature and got Maya in bad situation. So that's just me in a nutshell. I agree that Snake should have punished Zoe instead of Maya in essence, but as I said, he had little choice. I mean, there was a death threat in the song, and that takes precedence over anything that happens in most people's mind. And the fact that it was a retaliatory action, and people take retaliatory action more than the original action. That's all I have to say about that. Thanks for watching. I'm Jeff David.